As a manga reader, I want to tell you right now that this episode had me choking up. Like, knowing what's going to happen in the future of Taizai and seeing this episode animated, there was just so many scenes that just hit me like a truck. And I'm not gonna lie, I got teary-eyed while watching this because there were certain lines that were said. I'm not gonna say which lines because I don't want to spoil anime onlys, but manga readers will definitely know. But there was certain lines that were said by Meliodas that foreshadow things that I honestly never realized until I saw this episode. And I'm like, oh my god, like Nakaba-sensei, the foreshadowing you did is pretty ridiculous. But I'm just going to say right now that this episode, if you're a Meliodas fan, you're going to love this episode. And if you're a Bond fan or a Jericho fan, you're also going to love the episode because they had a bit of a spotlight in this week's episode. Let's talk about Meliodas and his trial, what he has to do to get his power back. Now, to kind of refresh everybody's memory, if you kind of forgotten how Meliodas lost his, power in the first place, a long time ago when the entire situation happened with, Hindi and, what Dreyfus did when they were, trying to throw the death of Zarathustra on top of the Sins, they escaped, Merlin, took, Meliodas' power, then gave it to the Druids, and now the Druids have it locked up, and the only way Meliodas can actually get his power back is going through a trial, and trying to overcome the death of Liz, and kind of, throwing away his emotions where he doesn't destroy the entire place of Danafor. So that's kind of what his trial consisted of, to kind of give a brief update and let you all remember. So, in this episode, Meliodas, he has to go back to the point in time to where he first met Liz, someone that was obviously his lover. He met Liz, his first time he ever met her. He got to see that all again, like it was a fresh memory. And then he got to see some happy times with her, and then he jumps to her death, the moments to when she died. And then obviously after that, he broke down and destroyed the entirety of Danafor. And you gotta imagine something like this, okay? If you're in Meliodas' spot, and you are in love with someone, and you lose this person, obviously you're going to be angry. You're going to want to lash out. You're going to have a lot of rage. And it's a very human response. It's something very real. If you had emotions for someone and when that happened, obviously you would probably do that too. And so seeing this happen repeatedly over and over again, it's bound to break an individual. It would break any normal person. If you had to witness someone you loved dying over and over again, and you had to meet them the first time you ever met them, and then watch the ending when they finally died, it would break you. And Meliodas was treading that line throughout this episode, seeing the person he loved just dying over and over again, and you couldn't do nothing to stop it because it's already long gone. It's just a memory, it's just a fragment, nothing you can do about it. And it was just so sad. I was like, this is a depressing part of the episode, and it shows how Meliodas got his sin. It is the origin story to the Sin of Wrath. As we know, Meliodas, he is the Sin of Wrath, and so this is how he got it. Thanks to what happened to the person he loved, they died, and then he broke down, and then we know the rest. We know what happened to Danafor. So it's a very jarring episode, especially for me as a manga reader. I was just very surprised with how well done this was. I will say that this was done better than the manga. I mean, the little flashbacks here and there, how it's just cutting to Liz and Meliodas' interactions, and then cutting over to her death, and then repeating, then Meliodas' internal monologue, how he feels about the situation, how he can't just throw everything away and forget about Liz. There was just so many emotions in the air, and I'm like, my god, like, A1, you're doing a fantastic job with this season. It's just like I said a while back when it came to Taizai Season 2. I said that A1 usually when it comes to their Season 1s, they're pretty lacking. They're pretty trash when it comes to them making Season 1s for Shonen. But when it comes to Season 2s, usually that's when they kind of go all in and they do a better adaptation. And they have definitely shown that they have handled Taizai with considerably more care this time around, and this episode proves that fact, especially how they handled the entire Meliodas situation with Liz. Now, despite everything, I know many anime-onlys are going to start to see the correlation between Liz and Elizabeth. I mean, besides just the names, the way they sound very similar, I know many are going to look at, Liz and Elizabeth's, designs and say they're very similar in design. Very, very similar in design. And I'm not going to really dive too deeply into that. I don't want to go into that for spoiler reasons, but basically, I could see many anime only starting to theory craft out what could potentially be going on with those scenes. But I want to leave it at that when it comes to that segment of the episode. So, Meliodas, he manages to overcome the trial by not throwing away his emotions. Apparently, the way to beat this trial, he had to throw away his emotions, but he didn't throw them away. He managed to keep them, and he managed to push forward and still retain who he is, which is very strange. He even says in the episode when, he was actually realizing that he can't save Liz, Liz is gonna die, he's like, I don't want this to happen again. And you can basically direct this to the fact he doesn't want this to happen to the people he cares about. He doesn't want it to happen to, the other sins. He doesn't want it to happen to Elizabeth. And so you can see when he's like, I don't want this to happen again, it's kind of like he was channeling all his emotions. He's like, what's already done is done. Liz is dead. She's gone. I will never be able to forget about her. I can never stop thinking about her. But at the same time, I need to understand that she's dead. And so I need to move on, and I need to understand that I need to protect the ones I love for the same thing doesn't happen, because I need to have my full power to be able to protect them. If I don't have my full power, then they're just going to end up dead like Liz. So it was a very monumental moment for Meliodas. He realized that he needed to set aside his rage, his wrath, because it's not vital right now, because what is happening in that is done. There's just nothing he can do to change that. So he needs to move on. He needs to be able to protect the ones that are still around. And like I said, it's a very powerful moment for Meliodas. And I do wonder how anime-onlys feel about Meliodas' character after this episode, because he's always been that MC that's lacking in backstory. He's always shown that he knew a lot. He's always shown that he was very powerful. He just didn't really showcase his full power. But now we finally get to see some aspects of that. So we get to see Elizabeth's trial, what she's going to be doing. We get to see how she was given a trial to be able to grow this plant, make it bloom. Even though it has a disease, it can't properly grow with light and water. So Elizabeth is tasked with using her healing capabilities. Now, this has already been shown previously in Taizai. At the end of Season 1, if you remember, Elizabeth was the one that was healing all the sins and all that, awakened like her other eye we saw at the end when fighting against Hindi. So you know that Elizabeth has healing capabilities. She's like the team's white mage. So it's obvious why her trial has something to do with blooming this plant, bringing it back to life, is to be able to allow her to heal the other sins, which would be very vital for the future of fights and stuff. When, like, a certain critical wound happens, Elizabeth can go in and heal people, and that's kind of what's being set up here. So Elizabeth is not going to be a useless support character, main female character. She's actually going to be legitimately important and help out our main cast of characters because she's going to have some weight in the team. The Bond segment is pretty simple. I mean, it's Jericho and Bond going from place to place, trying to find any rumors, any possibility to bring Elaine back to life. As we all know, that's been Bond's objective since the very beginning of the series. Ever since Elaine died, ever since he got his sin of greed, obviously he's always wanted to find out a way to bring back his lover. He's always wanted to bring her back because he cared deeply. And in a way, you can see a correlation here with, Bond and his lover, and Meliodas and the one he lost as well, Liz. And it just shows how similar they are, but also how kind of they've taken their own different paths and not just constantly try to bring one back. For instance, Meliodas is not trying to bring back Liz, while Bond is, but they're very similar in how they've lost their loved ones, and they're trying to find ways to cope with it, and that's kind of what was the similarities going on there, what, this episode is trying to parallel with these two characters. But anyways, Bond's trying to find a way to bring her back, and he's just hunting down any lead possible for, either a potion that could bring back the dead, any rumors at all, and eventually it leads him to his hometown that he once grew up in, and now we are at the end of the episode where he's, getting some backstory, some characterization. We get to see a little kid Bond, which, I want to say right now, Bond is one of my favorite characters. I'm going to say, I know manga readers might not believe me when me saying these words for obvious reasons, but Bond has always been one of my personal favorites. I've always liked him as a character, and the reason why is because design-wise, he's cool. I loved his abilities, how he could steal things and snatch things from people. I love his personality. He's just a cool freaking character, and he's had some really good fights in the series as well. And so seeing some backstory to him, it's definitely needed. We needed some of this. this, because even though we had some characterization, we got to see how he met Elaine, we didn't really get to see how he was as a child, and we're getting to see Bond's upbringing, what led him to be like he is, probably how he got certain skills and acts like he does, what led him to probably even hunt down the Fountain of Youth. We're getting that type of backstory, and so that's kind of what the ending segment's about when we get to see the flashback to Bond's past, and also we get to see a werefox as well, which kind of opens up the door for other creatures that we really haven't seen in the Taizai verse. We know about demons, we know about the giant clan, we know about fairies, we know about humans. I mean, we know about certain races here and there, but this is the first time we've actually got to see werefoxes. It's a completely different species that we haven't seen before, and so it's like Nakba is expanding his universe of Taizai and letting us know that there's a lot more races out there than what we were actually fully aware of. So that is pretty cool when you take a moment to think about that. There's some little funny moments between these two characters. Like Jericho, obviously she has a crush on Bond. I don't think the anime has probably shown this as well as the manga did, but it's very obvious that she is in love with Bond ever since, you know, her first interaction with Bond in season 1. And there's a quick little scene in this episode that made me chuckle when she found out that there was only going to be one room with one bed. She's like, I'll take the one bed and all that, and you see her offering to pay. That scene was funny because she wanted Bond to get in the bed with her, and I'm like, oh my god, Jericho, can you not be any more direct? And I know this is going to be a big stink for many, because let's face it, Bond, he's in love with his dead girl, okay? He's in love with, you know, Elaine that is dead. And you look at it, it's kind of sad that Jericho is not getting noticed at all, and many might want to ship Jericho and Bond. In a lot of ways, I do ship Jericho and Bond. I actually support that ship. I even support the Elaine and Bond ship, but I support the Jericho and Bond ship as well. And I could see many getting a little bit upset that, you know, Jericho might be getting shafted because, you know, Bond is still chasing after the one that is already dead. So how do you feel about that one as well, anime onlys? How do you feel about how Jericho is a potential love interest for Bond and Bond's not really paying attention to her? Do you think he will try to be with her? Be honest in the comments below. And so with that, I want to end this video here. I love you guys. You have a wonderful day or not wherever you live. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And I love you guys. Please be safe. Chibi out.